This is Tamara Calder Richardson, your host, and welcome to the Seeking Heaven channel. And the month of February, we have a very special series, and that would be Love Leaders Lessons. And today, we wanted to have a very important person to kick this off. And there are so many people that are experts, that are knowledgeable about spiritual topics, and that are spiritual gurus, even though some may not consider themselves that, but they're walking in love, and you can tell by the way they talk. So today I wanted to have our first guest kicking off the Love Leader Lessons, and that would be with our special guest, Dr. Yvonne Kason. So thank you so much for being here today, and I know you have a special topic on the power of divine love.
Well, thanks for having me, Tamara, and I wanted to tell you that February 1st is actually my birthday. So this is a gift of love from heaven that we're doing this to be aired on my birthday. So I think that's just wonderful.
It's meant to be. I mean, you can't beat that. It is a special time of celebration, and you really are, a conduit to love, and really genuinely care about not only your spiritual awareness, but giving information out to other people so they can also embrace their own. So I'm thrilled about what you're going to talk about. I have no idea because I just say your thing. So go ahead and just whenever you want to get started. I do want to say this before we do. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't, like it. Okay, that really helps things out with our ratings and so forth. The other thing is, go to Dr. Yvonne Kason, if you don't know, is a multiple 5-time near-death experiencer, multiple STE, that's spiritually transformative experiencer, and she also coined that term, which is very impressive, as well as she's the co-founder and president of Spiritual Awakenings International, and you can sign up to subscribe to get to be a part of their newsletter and so forth, to see their monthly speakers, and that's at spiritualawakeningsinternational.org, and the information will be below. So I did want to mention that, and she has written a book before we get started. It is called Touched by the Light. Fantastic book. I've read it. Fantastic. It goes through all these through her own experiences, which are really amazing to read, but also different types of spiritual experiences, and categorizes them, and then gives case studies. It's a fun and it's an easy read, and it gives a lot of clarity to people that are like, what was this? What did I experience? Or what is this? Or, it's all explained in the book. I actually think it's a groundbreaker. I think it's right at the top with, Life After Life with Dr. Raymond Moody and other groundbreaking books. I think this is one of those, so I encourage that. So anyway, with that said, why don't you take the floor and speak about the power of divine love?
Oh, well, thank you, Tamara, and thank you for mentioning my book, Touched by the Light, and also Spiritual Awakenings International. When you invited me to talk about divine love, I reflected about how blessed I've been in my own life to have been given glimpses of divine love through my near-death experiences and some of my other spiritually transformative experiences, because, divine love is actually the highest form of love. I mean, I don't know if many people realize, but the ancient Greeks, they had like 5 different words for different kinds of love, right? And they're, the highest form of love, they called it agape. Agape. And agape means divine love. And there are other kinds of love, like there's philia, which is brotherly love. There is eros, which is like romantic or sexual love. And then they have a couple more types of love, family love and hospitality, guest love. But the highest form of love is divine love. And, I feel, and what divine love is defined as, is the love that God has for us.
Yes.
That is divine love. The love that God has for us, and it is unconditional. it's even more powerful, like familial love, a mother for a child. That's very, very strong love. But divine love, or agape, is even stronger than that. It doesn't matter if we falter a million times, a million times, a million in our journey, our school of life. God still loves us unconditionally and is rooting for us to pick ourselves up and keep going, so that we're finally going to find our way back home to the safety of the divine. And how do I know personally the power of that love? Is because I glimpsed it. So I just wanted to share with you a couple of my most powerful
Please.
glimpses of divine love.
Oh,
And
please.
and you know, before that, when I was growing up, I mean, I'd heard, you know, God loves you, God is love, but to me, those were words. I didn't really know what it felt like to experience being loved in that way. And when I was in 1979, I had a very powerful near-death experience. And what happened was, just very, very briefly, that the plane crashed and sank into a semi-frozen lake in northern Ontario. I had to get out of the plane while it was sinking. It was a medevac plane crash. And I had to swim a long distance to shore in heavy winter clothes. And I was going under. I was drowning. And I was freezing to death. And at some point while swimming to shore, all of a sudden I heard like a whoosh, this rushing noise. And my point of perception was like, maybe 20 or 30 feet above my body, and then whoop, I went into this place filled with light and filled with love. Now, many of your listeners have probably heard about near-death experiences by now, but back in the 70s, nobody knew about near-death experiences. And from my own personal experience, yes, I went out of body, and yes, I went into a place filled with love, but the most powerful thing about what I experienced was the love. The love. It was such a intense, powerful, complete love. It was like it permeated me. Like I was just permeated with love. It was the most perfect, beautiful love I had ever felt. And it felt like being home. Like it felt like I was in my mother's arms, you know, the cosmic mommy, you know, was embracing me, that I was where I belonged. That I was 100% completely loved. That was the most powerful aspect that I felt when I was up in the lake. I mean, I also knew things, even though I didn't hear words spoken. I just suddenly knew, as I was feeling this incredible love, just saturating me. I knew that what I think of as me would live on whether my body survived this plane crash incident or not. And I would be fine. I would be there. I would be in the light and I would be in the love. So I absolutely had no fear or concern in terms of whether my body was going to be rescued, which obviously in the end it was.
Yes.
And I was resuscitated and reheated, and so I was back. But I just knew that I would live on if my physical body died, and that I was in a place where I was completely loved, like completely loved, completely understood. And so for me, that was my first experience of divine love in this lifetime, that I immediately recognized it. It was like remembering something that I'd forgotten. And I immediately recognized, and I immediately knew that, without anyone telling me, that what I was experiencing, what I was feeling, this incredible unconditional love, was the love of the higher power. And, you know, I had been trained to call the higher power God. And this was what I was experiencing, was not at all like what I had been taught the higher power was like. Like I had been taught, you know, that there was an old man with a long white beard sitting on a throne. They're judging you if you've been good, if you've been bad, and if you've been naughty, you have to be punished or whatever. But that's not what I was experiencing at all. What I was experiencing really was that the higher power was like this incredible, like a vast force field or ocean of infinite intelligence and infinite love that was underlying and interpenetrating all of creation. And that love changed me. That experience of that divine love transformed me. I mean, after my body was resuscitated and I was rescued, there was a big heroic rescue, and I have it all in my book if people want to read the story.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's really good.
But I want to focus on the divine love today with our theme of Love Month, and is that after I was rescued and resuscitated and my consciousness came back into my body, it was like some of that love came back with me. You know, it was like some of it stuck, and some of that love came back with me, because I was like drunk with love for several weeks afterwards. I was like so filled with love. I call it love intoxicated. It was like I was tipsy with love. I was just so filled with love. Like literally, it was like some of it came back with me. And I remember I'd be off work for about a month afterwards because I was recovering from the near drowning and from the frostbite. And I would be looking out the window and I'd see squirrels playing on my lawn. And I would just have these waves of love coming out of my heart for the squirrel. You know, I was just feeling so much love for this little sentient being. Or I'd see kids playing in the street or riding their bicycles or something. The same thing. I would feel these waves of love coming out of my heart for the children playing in the street. And then if I would listen to music, it was like it's like my heart was so wide open, you know, that there'd be something, any mention of love in a song, and I'd feel all this love bursting out of my heart, and you know, I was love of parents, love of the world, love of the planet, love of anything, and I was just so filled with love. But it was interesting because it was not an ungrounded love. Like with this love, I had a new strength. Like I had a new strength in knowing that I was loved. It made me feel stronger. It made me feel clearer. And it made me be strong against people who would maybe laugh at me or criticize me, or you're imagining that never happened to you. It's like it gave me a strength in my heart and a solidity in my heart that, no, I know this is real. And some people said, oh, it's a hallucination. No, a hallucination does not heal your heart and does not grow your heart 3 sizes. I love that movie, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and then they depicted the John Kerry version, how his heart grew 3 sizes. That's literally how I felt after this experience, that my heart grew 3 sizes. And I was just so filled with love. And I became much more understanding and tolerant of people with different religious and spiritual views, because it just became obvious to me in this state of awareness that I call it the higher power God, that God, but whatever name you want to call it, Allah, Brahman, the Great Spirit, Nirvana, it's all the same thing. God gets it. You know, we can call it whatever name we want. God gets it. We're talking about him, her, it, whatever. And that all the world's religions are all leading to the same understanding of the same one higher power, that we are all children of the same one loving force that underlies the universe, no matter what name we happen to call it, and that we're all like spiritual brothers and sisters just climbing the mountain from different angles, and so we're having different perspectives on it. But once we get to the top, guess what? It's the same one God up there. And so it made me much more tolerant of people with different viewpoints, and just accepting that everybody's on their own unique path. But I felt so blessed to actually feel that divine love. And you know, another thing that it did, just even having a glimpse, just a taste of that divine love, is it brought healing in my life. Because before I had that near-death experience, I'd been feuding with my dad. You know, like a lot of young people, you feud with your parents, right?
Yeah,
You know,
that's
and
not
we,
uncommon.
yeah, exactly. And, you know, we'd had some harsh words with each other, and I'd said some not so nice things to him. And we actually hadn't been speaking for a while to each other before this experience. And after this happened, after I had that near-death experience, after my heart was filled with divine love, something changed in me, something
Really?
healed in me, that all of this stuff that seemed so important to me before, you know, dad did this or dad said that, or I'm mad at dad because of X, Y, or Z, all of it seemed irrelevant. The only
Really?
thing that seemed important was love. And I called up my dad and I said, Dad, I love you. Let's be friends. And my
Wow.
father and I
That's, wow, I have the chills.
reconciled. Yeah, my father and I, we reconciled.
Ooh,
And I look at it, and we had,
wow,
Tamara,
wow.
we had a really beautiful, loving relationship for 7 years after that, until my father unfortunately died young from cancer. But those were precious 7 years where we would regularly tell each other that we loved each other. I mean, what an awesome relationship to have between a father and a daughter. And, you know, it's not that my dad had changed. It was that I had changed. It was that experience of a glimpse of that divine love had like melted away, you know, some darkness in my heart. And it was like I could see clearly, like that crap didn't matter. What mattered is I loved my dad and he loved me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful. So, you know, that it sounds like a supernatural love, a love that's transformative. And so you're talking about wanting to see the squirrel, you want to love the squirrels, you want to love the kids playing. It reminds me, Howard Storm, I've talked with him before, and he said after he started kissing the nurses and stuff, and then he realized that was just creepy. So,
Exactly.
so this love with your dad, this is powerful because, you know, it could be anyone, could be someone you've had a long relationship with, could be a spouse, could be, you know, a sibling, could be a parent. But what happened is that the stuff in between is that you just looked at you. It's like the stuff, just like, okay, it's just stuff. At the end of the day, I just love you.
Exactly. It was like
Wow.
my priorities completely shifted. It's like I look at it as my heart opened,
Wow.
and I was able to float above the garbage. You know, it's like, yeah, there's stuff down there, there's garbage down there, but is that really what matters? Or is what's floating above that is that my
Wow.
dad really loves me and I really love him. And that became my anchor. I started anchoring. You know, so many people in the world get so caught up with ego issues, you know, that, oh, if someone has a different opinion with them on
Sure.
politics or on, you know, the environment or on whatever monetary systems,
Yeah,
that,
sure.
you know, that they get, you know, they lock horns and they're fighting. And it's like, that's on an ego level, or chakras, you're looking at
Right.
second chakra level.
Right.
But it was like, this pulled me up. It was like, it brought me to that I was operating from a heart level. And from a
Beautiful.
heart level, we love people
Right.
unconditionally. And if we're striving to manifest divine love, that we are striving to manifest love for other people the way that God is loving us. And so what does that mean? That
That's beautiful.
means it's unconditional, that you wish the best for another person and you are sending them love and you are sending them good intentions,
It's so
even
beautiful.
if you don't see eye to eye. Because face it, who's going to see eye to eye with anybody on every single issue?
Nobody ever, not even with your own husband or wife or whatever. It's never.
Exactly. So we need to learn to rise above identifying with the ego issues, because they'll be there, right? You know, they're going to
Right.
be there, but to rise to a higher level, a spiritual level. And that's what divine love is all about, is you love the soul. and you recognize that every soul is as loved by God as you are. That was also one of the lessons I brought back from that near-death experience. It was not only that I was loved by God just so completely and so unconditionally, no matter what my issues might be, mistakes I make in life, I was loved completely and understood.
Wow.
But that God loves everyone that way. Everyone, the good, the bad, the ugly, everyone, are all being loved. And I mean, I think of some great saints, like one of them that walked on our planet not too long ago was Paramahansa Yogananda, a great saint who was the father of yoga in the West. And people who met him when he was alive, he was a very, very highly realized saint and guru. But people who met him when he was alive said he was such a perfect manifestation of divine love that you could have been a criminal, but when you walked up to him, he would see the good in you. It's like he didn't see the darkness. He saw the spark of God in you, and he would talk to that spark of God in you. And so people who met him would be changed. It was like, who is he? Like no judgment, just love for the God spark in each and every one of us. And so coming back from that near-death experience, it totally changed my life, because I realized that what we're being called to do is to try and develop divine love within ourselves. Now, I want to talk about that for a second, because it's not easy, because we carry anger, we carry pain. Maybe there are people around who are not treating us very well, or be downright abusive and hostile. So I witnessed, I worked as a psychotherapist for over 30 years, and healthy boundaries is really important, and it's a part of self-love. There's the golden rule, and Jesus talked about love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. Okay, so I'm going to focus on, we've been talking about God loving us. So another part of divine love is learning to love God right back. I love you, God. Thank you. Being grateful for all the wondrous things that God brings in our lives every day. It's like even that we wake up in the morning is a gift from God, or that the sun is shining, and our lovely pets and our friends, and to be grateful for that. So love God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind, but love your neighbor as yourself. What we have to do, I discovered, is that we have to start with loving ourselves, because we're not going to be able to love our neighbor unless we start loving ourselves first. And I don't mean love ourselves in terms of being conceited or arrogant or anything like that, but in the sense of keeping ourselves safe, setting boundaries when we're in an environment where people are being abusive towards us, and out of love for ourselves, to honestly and humbly realize nobody deserves to be treated like crap. I also deserve not to be treated like crap. Therefore, out of self-love and self-respect, I'm going to, try to resolve the situation or remove myself from the situation, give myself space to heal if I need space to heal. That this is all part of opening to divine love, is that we have to divinely love ourselves too, right? That we have the right to set healthy boundaries in relationships around us, and to look after ourselves. And I found that when I was working with people as a therapist, and also in my own personal journey, this was really, really important for me. Because if I was looking after me and loving myself and loving God, I could now expand my circle of love and give that same kind of love to other people. And I could say to my close friend, I love you, close friend. you really don't deserve to be treated like crap. Why don't you set a boundary with the situation where you're being treated like crap?
Right.
So that I'm actually walking my talk, meaning that I'm being loving towards me, and now I can expand my bubble and be loving towards other people. So to me, this is all part of divine love. We can't forget any part of it. Divine love, to me, is loving the higher power and opening ourselves to feel the love pouring down from the divine power. That's number one. Number two is loving ourselves, not in an egotistical way, but in the sense of looking after ourselves and protecting ourselves and trying to put ourselves in a positive, healthy, spiritual environment where we can prosper and grow the best we can. It's impossible to do it all the time, but the best we can. But then number three, then we're ready to extend that to others and treat others with that kind of love and respect that we are also treating ourselves. So to me, that is the three levels of the golden rule and the three levels of divine love.
Well, and you're really talking about honoring yourself.
Yeah.
You're talking about honoring the Creator. And I love how you say thy will be done. You've mentioned that before. And it's true. And sometimes I'll just get up in the morning and go, thank you for my breath. Thank you for me being here. Thank you for this body. Thank you. You could just do simple things. And then, but you're right, we have to honor ourselves because this life we've been given is very precious. So,
yeah.
And then from there, then we can extend that to other people. There is here's the difficulty, and I want to ask you what you thought about this. So, because of your many years as a psychotherapist, so you have a situation, maybe it's a family situation or a close relationship of some type, whatever it may be, and you have someone you love. But then you have to put in boundaries if there is some negative talk or whatever, if there is some things that aren't healthy. But then at the same time, we're supposed to give unconditional love. So how do you love someone and it could be that maybe they're abusive even to themselves, not just to you, or and that they're not happy, but it's still not healthy. It could be that, again, they're not happy with themselves and honoring themselves. But how do you love someone despite maybe a negative attitude or things they say? Maybe they're aware or not aware. Maybe they're not aware. I don't know. And still be able to love yourself. So I know that you had that happen a lot with your clients. So
absolutely. And in my personal life, and really, as I've learned more and more about divine love over the years, it's very clear is that there's a difference between whether you like or dislike an action that somebody does or an attitude, because people can do very hostile actions and have very negative attitudes. But divine love is that, like the example of Yogananda, that underneath that, whatever that wounding or that brainwashing or those bad habits, there's still a divine spark of God inside that person. And it's that divine spark that we love unconditionally. The outer package may be really off, but it's the divine spark underneath that, and we pray for them, and another thing Jesus said, pray for them that hate you, and that is what divine love is all about. You're not agreeing with them in what they're doing, and when you're praying for them, you're praying for the divine spark in them, that they can have those experiences that will help awaken them to God's love, that will help draw them home to their own spiritual journey. And I mean, one of my prayers is, God bless them that they may have those experiences to rapidly come home to God realization. That was one of my, that praying that people will find their way home. And that is what divine love is. It doesn't mean that we're agreeing with what they're doing all the time, because actually God is the only real judge. I mean, we're doing our own battle each day, trying to do the best in our own lives. So who are we to judge what other people are doing? But praying for that divine spark in them, wishing that divine spark well, that no matter what it is, and God will be the judge through karma and reincarnation. I wanted to tell you another story, if I could, where God gave me life has given me another really, really powerful glimpse of divine love. And that happened in my near-death experience in 2003, when I was actually dead for a period of time.
Right. That was.
And I was in heaven again. Yeah. And so short version of what happened in 2003 is I had a slip and fall accident on some black ice, fell back and hit my head on rock, just straight back, and happened at Niagara Falls. And I had a serious brain hemorrhage, traumatic brain injury, and I instantly died. And what happened is I felt my spirit whisked out of my body. But let me go back a little bit before I was whisked out of my body.
Sure.
About an hour or two before this happened, I had been meditating at the foot of the falls, at the foot of Niagara Falls. I love to meditate there. I live not too far, about a 2-hour drive from Niagara Falls, and I would love to meditate there. I love the roar of the waterfalls, and to me it's a power place, and it sounds like the Om vibration, and I'm able to go deep in my meditation quickly when I go there. So I was meditating at the base of the falls, and I had a profound, deep experience where the veils parted, where the veils between our reality and the other side were gone. And I could see the other side with my eyes wide open. And I could see a spiritual master, and that was Mahavatar Babaji in his light body, said to me telepathically, "Welcome home." And I was in a state of God communion. I was in a state where my consciousness was I was with my eyes open. I was totally here, totally aware of the earthly plane, but I was also in total communion with the other side. And it was incredible. It was beautiful. It was being home. It felt complete. And then I died 2 hours later when I had the slip and fall accident. So I now think that experience that I had for 2 hours before I died was my deathbed experience. Now, we have seen many people, who before they die, that they are talking to spirits on the other side, or they may be talking to Jesus, or they may be talking to angels. So this has been described as the deathbed experience, and or end-of-life experiences. It's given a lot of different names, or deathbed visions. I think that was mine. And I just wanted to share that, because this again is an example of how God loves us, how God prepares us, the higher power prepares us for when it's going to be our end time. I didn't know I was about to die, right?
No,
but
not at all.
I was like totally prepared, totally open, ready to cross over at any moment, because I was already glimpsing the light and love of the other side. But then I died. And so then it was like there was no struggle. I was just out of my body. And then suddenly I was whisked by a force greater than myself, was all looked after. And I found myself back into the realm of light, and what I call heaven. And I was in this place filled with light and love and joy and celebration. And how it actually felt was like there was a graduation party being held in my honor. That was the amount of joy and celebration that was in the
That's what they tell me too. They're like, it's a celebration. Or someone's like on hospice, they'll go, "We're getting ready to celebrate." That's what it
was like. It was like, we have birthday parties, but it was like that. It was like a birthday party in my honor.
I bet. Yeah.
And so the joy and the love and the welcome, and two beings of light welcomed me into the realm of light. And again, how the divine loves us so much that there's a welcoming committee there for you. There's a welcoming party. I mean, it was so incredible. And they telepathically explained to me, so that I would understand that I had died, and that my work in the body of Dr. Yvonne Kason was finished. And sort of the feeling was, although there was no slaps, because when you're in your spirit body, there's not a physical body, but it was the feeling like he'd smack someone on the back. Job well done, that was the feeling. Like, well, good job, you did it, and now you're here so you can join the party. And it was so wonderful. But by this point in my life, I'd been researching near-death experiences for many, many, many years, and I'd heard about the life review, and I thought, uh-oh, here it comes. Here it comes. That's right. We're going to have a life review.
It'll be good and maybe not good. That's
right. I try to be good, but I'm not perfect. I never pretended I was. And so there was like an uh-oh, now here it comes. We're going to have my life review. And it was so incredible. Because, and I wanted to share this because it's just another expression of the divine love and how incredibly beautiful it is and unconditional. It was like I just got a glance from these great saints. It was Paramahansa Yogananda and Mahavatar Babaji were the two saints who greeted me on the other side. And it was just like a glance. And in that glance, it's like they read my mind. They knew what I was thinking, that I was worried about the life review, right? That in the glance was given to me the understanding that it didn't matter. It didn't matter. That just like when a mother is watching her child learn how to walk, the child's going to stumble, it's going to fall, it's going to bump its head, it's going to scrape its knee. It's all part of the learning process, and a loving mother understands that it's all part of the learning process. So this was the understanding that was given to me, that the love of, shall we say, the divine mother, if we want to define God in that way, because I believe God can be divine mother, divine father, friend, whatever, foreign, divine lover, whatever we want. Is that the divine mother, Father God, loves us so completely that doesn't matter. All that stuff doesn't matter. It was all part of your soul learning. Don't worry about it. Like, don't worry about it. And then I just went into the bliss. And to me, it was like, we worry so much about we're going to be judged and that we're not perfect and we make mistakes. And when I got up there, it was don't worry about it.
Well, they were probably trying to put you at ease because, you're thinking, oh, there's some things in there I may not like. And they were like, it sounded like they telepathically communicated and gave you the essence and the feeling that it's just things, everybody's got
it's just stuff. That's right.
Stuff.
That's right.
Here you are, good job. It's just
that's right.
It's just stuff.
That's right. Exactly. That's what it was like. And so this too is a part of divine love, that incredible understanding of it's just stuff.
And that's a relief that people hear you say this, because there are people that a lot of them have not had a near-death experience, but they know that one day we're all going to drop this body and we're going to be in total spirit, and they're concerned about that. And some people maybe feel like they've done, like criminal types, you have done really horrible things, but God's love is unconditional. I'm not saying
it transcends all of it. Now, it's not that we don't have to learn our soul lessons, because another thing that happened when I was in the light is that I went into a realm of what I will call pure consciousness, where I wasn't actually seeing things anymore, but it was a pure knowing. And in this realm of pure knowing, it's like I remembered or no longer forgot all my past lives, and I could see, understand, conceptualize. I'm going to say the word see, even though it's not visual. It's like I knew many of my past lives before I had this near-death experience, but they were like having pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. So I had pieces of a jigsaw puzzle, but now all the pieces were put together and they formed the bigger picture. So I was able to understand and see the big picture of all my past lives. And it was like an aha experience. It was like, oh, that suddenly my life as Dr. Yvonne Kason made sense, because I always thought my life was a bit out there, being a doctor, having, 5 near-death experiences, every STE in the book, I could write the book on it because I'm having them all,
yes, and you did. And it's great.
That when I saw in the context of my past lives, it was, oh, guess
do you
what?
still remember? Do you remember all of them?
Many of them, yeah. But the realization, this was not the first incarnation that I've been like this. I've been like this for a whole bunch of them. This is not the first incarnation I've had near-death experiences. This is not the first incarnation I've had all kinds of STEs. It was like my soul was just sort of picking up from where it was before. And it was an awesome understanding about the reality of reincarnation.
Okay.
That it is very, very real. And I have a very deep understanding also from the many past lives of my own that I've remembered, and also my patients I've counseled over the years that they've remembered, that it's very clear to me that lessons that we didn't complete in a particular lifetime, guess what? We're going to have to deal with it in our next lifetime. So may as well learn the lessons now. And that's sort of how the law of karma works, is that people think, oh, if I've done something bad, I'm going to be punished. Well, that's a way of looking at it. Yogananda calls it, you'll be given a learning experience to learn that lesson.
I would say, if you don't pass 3rd grade, guess what? You get to take 3rd grade again. So if people want to check out early, sorry, where'd you end off? Okay, guess what? You're right back.
That is exactly the truth. And it might be that you're stuck in 3rd grade math, but you're up to grade 8 in sciences. Well, God's got that all figured out. You'll get grade 8 science lessons, but you'll still get your grade 3 math until you pass it. You'll get that lesson over and over and over again.
Exactly. That's why I'm like, let me learn this lesson, please. I want to get it. I want to be done with this. And I also wanted to ask you, and it's still about, our soul and how much we're loved, because it's not easy being here. But why is it that do you feel personally that certain people choose, and I think we choose before we get here, to have maybe harder lives or more difficult, and some of those can end up in spiritual experiences where others don't? I guess what I'm saying is, why are some people spiritually in 3rd grade and some people in 8th grade, and why do some people choose to take a more difficult road and be fussy, and I want to know and I want to get to it, versus others don't? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I have several thoughts on that. Well, let me start by telling you how that 2003 near-death experience ended and how I came back, because that connects to what you just asked me.
Okay.
Is that after a period, like, time does not pass the same on the other side. I mean, it was really like past, present, and future all coexist up there. It's almost like they're all happening at the same time. It's like an actress who's been in a lot of movies. You could have 4 movie theaters on the street, and they're all playing movies that she did at a different time of her life, but they're all playing at the same time. That's sort of like it was up there. It was very very hard to explain, coming back to how we experience time here, so you could
linear versus
past, present, future all seem to meld together anyway, and bend. But after what I call timeless time, because it felt to me like I was on the other side much, much longer than my body was physically dead or unconscious. So after what felt to me like a really long time, then the beings of light, the 2 saints, Paramahansa Yogananda and Mahavatar Babaji, appeared to me again in their light bodies, and they telepathically communicated to me and said, you may now choose. And just to make it clear, you may now choose means you must now choose. You may now choose. And the choice I was given was to incarnate in the body of a babe, to further serve the Divine Mother, and or to return to the maimed body. And,
Oh.
maimed is not a word that I use. And in fact, after I came back, I had to look it up in the dictionary. And maimed means disabled or with a disability, right? But I sort of got it, even though it's not a word I used. And I remember in my heart and in my soul when I was given this choice, and I knew what it was, the choice was to have a new incarnation starting as a baby or to go back to my form that was injured. And my heart was so open, like just so open. It was literally like, it felt like my heart was what was talking. And what we think of as our mind or our head, it was, I don't know if it was asleep or it was resting or whatever, because I wasn't thinking, like, what do you mean? What's the good? What's the bad? What would happen here? What would happen there? Nothing like that was happening. I was just functioning from my heart. My heart was wide open, feeling the divine love and the communion and, that access to infinite knowledge and everything. And it was my heart that instantly responded when I was given this choice. And my heart responded, Masters, please guide me. What is the higher choice? I want to do God's will. And they lovingly, oh, so lovingly, I mean, I'm making a longer story short, but they just lovingly responded back to go to the maimed form. It'll be more difficult, but to go to the maimed form. Now, I just want to point out here, my intellect didn't ask, what do you mean more difficult? What's going to happen? What are the challenges? Because when we're in the intellect, we think all these things. But it was like my intellect was having a siesta, and my wide open heart was what was responding, right?
Yeah, whatever, it's great.
It's like, and what my heart, what my soul really wanted to do was God's will. And if it was God's will for me to go in the body, whatever the main body, whatever it was, my soul immediately responded, I accept. And faster than the speed of thought, it was between the thought I and the thought accept is when, with a gasp of air, I woke up in my body again. Crazy. So it was like, I accept. Like, and I was thinking that. And the Yogananda and Babaji, like they were with me when I gasped the breath of air. They were still right in front of me. I could see the other side completely superimposed in our physical reality. And I could see it that way for the first several minutes as I was breathing life back into my dead body that had been lying there outside. And it was like waking up in an ice cube because it was in winter in Canada and my body temperature, because I was dead, had dropped.
Right.
So, and then slowly the white light realm started fading from view until it just became like a dot in the periphery, and that's a dot that's never closed. But I'm sharing this in answer to your question because did I choose? Why, yes, I did choose, right? I was given a choice and I did choose. But I think some people think that the choice we make on the other side is the way we make choices down here. We look at the pros and the cons and what's going to happen, what's not going to happen. Whereas that's not, I'm just saying from my own personal experience, that's not what happened for me. That I was given sort of an overview. Well, you can come in as a baby or you can go back to the injured body, and the injured body is going to be rough, but that is the higher choice. And it was like in that state of love and communion, I didn't need to know the details. I so trusted God's love, and I so trusted God's plan, and my heart was so open that all I wanted was to be God's instrument in whatever way, that, well, whatever it is, we'll deal with it. That was sort of like what I was feeling, that the most important thing for me in my soul, in the face of God on the other side, the most important thing of me was, for my soul, was to do God's will. And so I accepted whatever it entailed without knowing, what it entailed. So, afterwards, like, I'm a human being, come back in a human form, the ego mind kicks in again. I go like, why didn't I ask? Because it was
difficult.
It's
Difficult. Yeah, that's a word, difficult. So
Yeah.
maybe just tell our listeners, because I've read the book, but you had difficulty for a long time,
Yes.
12 years. Maybe you want to explain some of that? It was
Yeah,
difficult, right?
because the body I came back to was disabled. I had a serious traumatic brain injury with a brain hemorrhage. I could walk and I could talk. Yes, those things were still intact, but the post-traumatic brain injury symptoms I was having, lesions that show up, lacerations, contusions, hemorrhages in my brain, that they disabled me. I was disabled. I was a medical doctor. I was writing books. I was counseling patients with spiritually transformative experiences. I was speaking at conferences all over the world. I loved the work I did. It was a privilege and an honor that God had given me such a wonderful assignment, and I loved what I did. Not that it didn't have its challenges too, but I lost all of that ability. I lost all those abilities. I lost the ability to work as a doctor. I lost the ability to use the computer. I'd written books on the computer. I lost the ability to use the computer. I lost the ability to be a public speaker. I lost the ability to, and stamina to be able to even volunteer in my son's school. I lost the ability to serve on any volunteer boards, and service had always been a huge part of my life. I served at my church, and I served on the Kundalini Research Network. I served on board, and I served on the Spirituality and Healthcare Network board. I couldn't do any of these things. It was literally like an atomic bomb had hit my life and had been flattened. That everything that used to be my life, I couldn't do it anymore. I could look after myself with great difficulty, like I could feed myself, I could dress myself. Even having a shower was difficult. That my short-term memory was so profoundly impacted by the traumatic brain injury, I would have trouble in my shower because I couldn't remember what I had just done. Had I just soaped that part or not? Had I washed my hair yet or not? Had I put the conditioner on or not? And, I'd come out of the shower and I'd go like, what is wrong with my hair? And I'd realize I'd not rinsed the conditioner off. I'd forgotten, right? And I'd have to go back in the shower. I mean, people, they don't realize some of the struggles she might have. They'd look at me and they go, well, she walks okay, she talks okay, what's wrong with her? Well, see me trying to have a shower.
But just little things like that in our lives that people, they might be complaining or blah, blah, blah. But the fact we can get up, we can walk, we're not in pain, say right now, say we're not in pain. Just shampooing your hair, driving a car. We take all these things for granted till you can't do it. And, God loves us so much. He has a way of teaching us humility too. So I always try to get those lessons.
It was incredibly humbling. But certain things were retained, like I retained the ability to drive a car. Why could I drive the car and not operate the computer? I don't know, but it is what it is. It depends where the injury happened in my brain. And I tried really, really hard to get better because I so much loved what I did before, counseling people with STEs and being the groundbreaker pioneer in this field, and book writing and talking. I loved all that. But I went to neuro rehab for 7 years. 7 years, I've completed one program completely, said I'm not ready to give up on healing. So then I went to another program and I had a very specialized program just for me. And God was really great and gracious in helping me find excellent therapists and neurologists, etc. But, I eventually had to come to the understanding that for whatever reason in the divine plan that I was not going to heal, that this was going to be a permanent disability. And I had to come to terms with that. And, having experienced the divine love the way that I had, having been, more than once on the other side, but particularly in 2003, right, this my head injury. I knew this was not a punishment, me being sent back to my body. And, some people could say very cruel things. Like I remember someone said to me, boy, you must have some really bad karma, Yvonne, that you would have been disabled by this head injury. And,
Oh
and
my
just,
gosh.
and just inside of
Who
me,
does that?
it's like, stop. This is not truth. I knew in my soul that this is not truth, because I know in my soul, because I've experienced it, that God's plan is loving, and God has a perfect loving plan for each and every one of us. And even though I didn't understand why I had to be disabled for all those years, that there was a higher purpose, and it was good. And I clung to that like a life ring in the storm, that God loved me even though I didn't understand it. There was some higher purpose to why I was disabled. And, I finally came to the place that says, okay, if I'm burning off several lifetimes of karma in one lifetime, okay, I'll do it. And then also, I found that the only way I could serve now in my disabled form was through my prayers and through my meditations. And I know metaphysically that sometimes when we pray and meditate for others, that we can work it out in our own body, that we are taking on some of their karma. And so I thought, okay, if I'm taking on some of the karma of the people that I'm loving and praying for, that's okay too, right? So
Wow,
I
you
finally,
are so humble.
so it was like, okay, if this is how Spirit wants me to serve now, that I'm serving through my prayer and meditations, burning off my karma, burning off other people's karma. So that's what I really focused on. I focused on my prayer and meditation, and got very, very, very deep and serious in my spiritual practice. By the way, I had to relearn how to meditate because I lost the ability to meditate with my head injury. So we can't finish without the story of the biggest miracle of divine love in my life, which was my healing experience. On February 24th, 2016, more than 12 years after I was disabled with that traumatic brain injury, I experienced a miracle. And I think this is the biggest expression of divine love, when a miracle happens, because I was healed. I was meditating. I was deep into meditation. I told you how I had embraced meditation in a meditation retreat in Encinitas, California, the Self-Realization Fellowship Meditation Retreat. And I was deep in a meditation, and all of a sudden I experienced, like much to my surprise, this like a volcano of light erupting in the center of my brain. Like with my inner eye, I could see it, like literally like a fountain of light erupting in the center of my brain. And it's like the lights came on. It was literally like the center of my brain had been in darkness for 12 years, and now boop, the lights came on. And the feeling inside of my consciousness was like waking up. It's like the center of my brain had been asleep for 12 years, and it suddenly woke up. That's what it felt like on the inside. And I was healed. My brain was healed. And it's been a sustained healing from that day forward. In the first year, I wrote 2 new books. Touched by the Light was the first book I wrote after my brain healing. The second one's already written, going to be publishing it soon, I hope. And then I thought, well, Lord, I guess I'm going to have to public speak if I have a book. So the first opportunity to public speak that came along was IANS, and I thought, okay, I'll submit to speak. I didn't know if I had the gift back or not, but I got a standing ovation, my very first oral presentation after my brain healing. I was so moved. I went, oh, Lord, not only did you heal my ability to write books, you healed my ability to public speak. And then I was asked to be on the board of directors, and I went, well, Lord, is this going to be part of my new life of Yvonne version 2.0? You know, I now look at it. I was offline for refurbishment for 12 years, and now this is Yvonne version 2.0. So anyway, to make a long story short, so yes, I discovered, wow, I can still be on a board of directors. I can still be the president of a nonprofit organization. And that all, it was like training me, warming me up for what my real assignment was, that Spirit said, you are going to be starting Spiritual Awakenings International. And God brought me Robert, Linda, and now you to support this venture. And, you know, so God's plan is so beautiful and so loving. And who knows why I was offline for 2 years, but Lord had more work for me to do. So boop, I was healed. And I just want to leave with, divine love is so perfect. We just have to trust it. God loves each and every one of us. And I trusted that love when I was disabled, and it gave me strength and it gave me peace. But now that I'm healed, it's like a testimonial to you. Just never know when God's going to surprise you. Go, okay, we're going to start a new chapter. You're healed.
So it was a total instantaneous healing.
Yes, it was.
That there wasn't a spiritual, I mean, you know, maybe there were some spiritual things going on all along, but as far as physically, it was an instantaneous,
dramatic,
healing.
It was
on it,
what it felt like. Yeah. It felt like it was like a 90% healing instantly, and over the year that followed, the first year that I kept getting better. You know, like I just kept getting better after being disabled for 12 years. I know, and I still surprise myself. I go, well, Lord, learning how to do websites, is this something I'm capable of? Guess what? I am.
I mean, this is just so hard for me, my brain to wrap around, because you are so brilliant, so full of life, so full of energy. It's really hard to believe that, you know, that you suffered. You did. You suffered through this, you know, it had to be frustrating, you know, not be able to do the things that you wanted to do, and then probably be dependent upon family members, and you just wouldn't even believe it looking at how you are now. But to me, what gets me is that going back to the very first thing you said, you know, yeah, God's love is abundant, but we also need to show God love. And during all this time, you praised him. You praised him in the storm. I love that song, by the way. Was it Hillsong? But you kept on. You kept saying, thy will be done. And you surrendered, and you gave your love, and you got a plan. And to me, that is like, I'm blown away by it, because that was the right action. And apparently so, because he rewarded you. Like, okay, let's get back on it now. But who knows, that's with all of us. I mean, if we are connected to the Creator, and we are part of that, I mean, we're, you know, children, if you want to call it, but we are part of that. We're loved, that, you know, we should have more, not only value in ourselves, but give God a little credit for us being here. I tell people that are very sad sometimes, I'm like, oh, you know, I don't know my way, I lost my way. And I'm like, look, God didn't lose his way with you. If he wanted you gone, you'd be gone. You wouldn't even need a medical reason. You'd just be, you know, you could just, you know, that'd be it. But we're here for a reason, and we have a project, you know. And of course, I think it's about spreading love, but each task is different for each person, how they present that. So looking back on it now, and if you take away the doingness, you know, the line items, the to-do list, and learning the website and all these things, but just the core thing that you're brought back to do, what do you think the message is for you and for all of us, maybe?
For all of us. Well, I would say two things, is that we are truly spiritual beings. We're immortals. We're immortal souls that live over and over and over again, and that we're all like droplets of that source. We're all a part of that source, and that source is love. That higher power is love, loves us unconditionally. And the final thing I want to say is that everybody eventually, at some point, after who knows how many incarnations, will eventually have a happy ending, that we're all going to make our way home again. That was something that I saw too. It's not like some of us are not going to make it. And, oh, am I going to be one of the ones that falls by the wayside? Well, we might fall by the wayside for a while, but sooner or later, God gives us those
Oh, that's great.
opportunities so that we're gonna. I love happy endings. So
I love happy endings.
there is a happy ending, and the happy ending, even though we don't have to wait incarnations for, is that if we open our heart to God now, we can feel divine love in our life every day, particularly through prayer and meditation and being of service. Those are the keys. And that if we have our heart attuned to spirit, that we will go to that white light when we pass and feel that love when our time on this earth is finished.
I agree. And then also right now, just we have a couple minutes. Is there anything that as far as far as bringing that white light, that love now, any kind of prayer, recommendations, meditation, or anything to so people don't have to wait? I mean, we could kind of, I've read your book. We talk about you can have that presence of that love now. And do you think it's just sitting in it and just being?
Well, I have some of my
I
have some of my favorite prayers in the book, but I think what fits with today's topic of divine love is the divine light invocation. So I sometimes lead people in that, and I'll just do it with you right now, really quickly. This is a prayer.
That'd be very nice. That'd be a treat.
Yeah, this is a prayer / affirmation that Paramahansa Yogananda wrote. So it's the divine light invocation. So if you and any of the people listening would like to do it with me, I'll lead you in it.
All right.
So I'm going to say the lines, and then just mentally, or if you want out loud, say the line after me, and we'll go through it twice, and I'll guide you in the visualization. So the first line is, I am sustained by divine light.
I am sustained by divine light.
So now visualize divine light descending from above and filling your body. It permeates every part of my being. Just visualize that divine light just permeating every particle of your being.
Yes.
I am living in that light. So see your light body surrounded by an ocean of light, that all of creation around you is an ocean of light.
Yes.
The divine light sustains me within and without.
The divine light sustains me within and without.
So I'll say the affirmation again without the instructions, but visualize the light descending, filling, and surrounding you as I do the affirmation again. I am sustained by divine light. It permeates every particle of my being. I am living in that light. Divine light sustains me within and without. And we can just sit in the stillness and the peace of feeling that light and that love pouring into us and in everything around us. Amen.
It's beautiful. I want to go hug a squirrel now. I always said that was good. I was like, I always say there's no high like the most high. I was kind of like, I was just getting high. I wanted to start crying for my gratitude. I mean, it's beautiful. And just, it's funny. I think that some people think they're doing that, but, this is an interactive thing. You're actually asking the presence of God to fill you.
Yeah.
We just have to, okay, let's do it. right? I mean, it really is an interactive thing. So just enjoying that. Thank you for sharing that so people can feel that love and know that they're loved. And you're amazing. And again, everybody that's watching, please, not only subscribe and like, my channel and this video, but please sign up for the spiritualawakeningsinternational.org. There's so many great speakers. So much fun stuff is coming up, like in June with the conference. Dr. Yvonne Kason, you're amazing. I admire you. And you're very soulful. So thank you for showing us the way and sharing a part of yourself with us today.
Thank you for having me, Tamara.
It's
been a pleasure, and I appreciate and love you too.
I love you. Thank you. Namaste. Thank you so
Namaste.
much.